You're listening to The Flickcast, a pop culture podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, of course, my famous and most important co-host, Joe Dilworth. Joe, how are you, sir?
I am well. I didn't know I was famous. That's cool. Am I internet famous? Because that
I think
could be.
maybe I should have used the word infamous.
Yes, there
Does
we
that
go.
sound like more like you? You're more infamous than infamous? What
I
does that
think
mean?
so.
Does that mean, is infamous a bad thing?
I don't think it always is. I mean, I am. It has been established by many people that I am a terrible human being. So I could be infamous, but I don't know that infamous necessarily means a bad connotation. In my
Well, it's
opinion.
like, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I'm thinking about Churchill, a day that will live in infamy, right? So
Right.
that, I mean, maybe it's bad. I don't know. I got to think, at least in my experience, or not experience, but in my mindset, infamous sounds like bad. It's like you're a bad guy, which is why people know you. Not you personally are a bad guy.
Sure,
Maybe.
sure.
I mean, maybe you are.
I probably
So
am, but
infamous is bad. Famous is good.
although you gotta know, especially for historical figures or anyone that's been involved in a war, they're only famous on the winning side. For the losing side, they are infamous. So
Well, that is an excellent point. There,
yeah,
you're right. So every bad guy is the hero of his own story, right?
as they should be. All the best bad guys are. I mean, that's
Right. So somewhere near a golf course, someone is crying and thinking they got robbed. Right? Is that what you're saying?
absolutely, exactly, yes.
That's a shame.
Well,
It's not a shame.
Doctor Doom is a good example. I think we've talked about this in the comics. He's the big bad for the Fantastic Four, and bent on world domination and destroying that Richards fool and stuff like that. But then when the Fantastic Four go to Latveria, his home turf, he's a much beloved figure and rules well and takes care of his people, and there's no hunger or poverty or anything. So is he infamous or famous? Right.
Well,
So
that's a good point. I mean, even Thanos, if you want to talk about Thanos too,
right,
in his mind and to his followers, he was doing the right thing. It's like, you know what, the society cannot sustain this. I need to make a correction. So
right.
he was a good guy. I'm actually, we're talking about Fantastic Four for a second. I know we didn't get Reed Richards at the end of WandaVision, and we're going to get to WandaVision. We're going to do a little mini wrap up again. 'Cause there's been
Recap.
more
Yes.
a recap of the recaps. But we won't dwell on WandaVision too much because we got Falcon Winter Soldier coming up. We've got
We got lots of
Justice
stuff. Lots of
Zack
good
Snyder's Justice League coming up,
stuff. Yes.
and a bunch of other stuff. But you make an interesting point about Doom. I think that he's a good villain because you're right. He is beloved in his own country and by his people, and yet to the outsiders, he seems like a bad guy. I mean, he does a lot of bad things for sure, but Latveria. I always love the countries they came up with too.
Right. And
Anyway.
that's a good thing because so what would happen if Doctor Doom did take over the world? Would he rule it like he does his home country, and would that be a bad thing? I mean,
I
so
don't know. That's a good question. I mean, Lex Luthor became president, right?
he did, and he actually did, pretty decently as president until he got a little off the rails. But again, Lex Luthor, I guess early on he was like hell bent on world domination, but in various iterations he just hated Superman because Superman was an alien, and you can't trust aliens according to bad guys in comics.
Well,
But
you can't.
yeah, but otherwise, he seemed like a fairly smart businessman, other than secretly murdering people and
Didn't
stuff
he
like
blame
that.
Superman for the loss of his hair at one point?
Then one of the continuities, yes, he did.
That's funny. You made me go bald, and then chicks wouldn't talk to me, and so now you must be destroyed.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how
That
it
was
goes.
before Rogaine, I guess. I mean, all of his money and time and brain power that he spent developing ways to kill Superman, he could have just developed a way to grow hair.
Right, because he was, in that iteration, a pretty genius scientist. It's like, so you couldn't go, well, he made me lose my hair, but hey, I figured out a way to grow it back, and I'm going to sell it to the world and make all my money. So,
Even
Superman's
more money,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So he could have invented Rogaine or something. And
So then he could be Superman's best friend. It's like, if it wasn't for Superman, I wouldn't have done this.
right, he would have been, yeah. If it wasn't for you, I mean, originally I was very upset, but then you helped me see a new way and make billions, and so why am I angry? Exactly. Yeah. It's a whole. We should be writing Superman comic books. That's
We
what it
really
is.
should. I mean, I think so. But
All right. So there's been enough of that fantasy. There's
Sure.
been
yeah,
not gonna
because that's never going to happen.
That's never
Anyway,
going to happen. There's been some. Well, I guess if I say that, it won't. So I'm not going to put that negativity in the universe. Maybe there is a multiple multiverse world where you and I are writing Superman right now. Who knows?
there is, there is, because every possibility exists out there in the multiverse. So we are
How many? Yeah,
we're either famous or probably in one world infamous Superman writers.
exactly.
So
Exactly. And then so that's the one middle finger that Doctor Strange puts up, although it isn't his middle finger, but still. So
yes, exactly.
anyway, speaking of Doctor Strange, and there's been some interviews after WandaVision finished, which was only last week. It's so sad. Time just seems so meaningless again without WandaVision every week. But yeah, the director and the creator, like some of the cast have been interviewed, etc. But you seem to have a pretty good handle on it. So why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, a lot of, and I don't remember who said what, but Jack Schaefer, the showrunner and creator of the show, and Matt Shackman, who directed it, have been doing the rounds, as they say, and talking quite a bit about WandaVision and answering a lot of questions, specifically about what wasn't there. And they actually did address, I can't remember which one, it may have been both of them, they did address the final episode, which we had discussed at length last week. And much to my surprise, much to my happiness, they did confirm that it was kind of chopped up slightly, and there were things that were pulled out and saved for later. And it does sound like a lot of it had to do with scheduling. Like, Black Widow's not out yet. Doctor Strange is still a ways down the road and things like that. And they probably, it sounded like they kind of alluded to the fact they were kind of intending to kind of hint at X-Men and some of the other things that people speculated were going to show up. But plans for those things like Fantastic Four and integration of the X-Men into the MCU obviously are way down the road. So it seemed not a good thing to do. It sounded like there was more with Darcy going on, but because of how the episode was structured, that needed to be pulled out. And I think it was Shackman that confirmed that originally the plan was to do 10 episodes, but
right. Yeah, I saw that
yeah.
they had 10 episodes, and then they had to. He's like, yeah, the story wasn't just flowing, whatever. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that a portion of that 10th episode, or a portion of all the episodes, because there are a couple of points in the show where there's continuity issues, which Marvel is pretty good about continuity.
Yes.
So the fact that, like, on Jimmy Woo's wall, there's a thing. We talked about this before, but there's a picture of the one character who said, it said like Vision brought him out of his trance or something like that, but that hadn't happened yet.
Right. Exactly.
So there's some stuff that was out of order for sure, and there was some stuff that they had to recut and whatever. But I would bet you that, as we speculated, that
Yes.
They cut out a lot of stuff for Phase 4 because this wasn't supposed to be first. Did they address the boner in the room?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, they said, in fact, I think I want to say it was Shackman kind of alluded to the fact that Ralph Boner may actually be the witness protection person that Jimmy Woo was checking up on. But more importantly for that, they did say that was kind of intended to go differently, and that it will be followed up on later. So, again,
well, yeah, I saw something that said that he was talking about how that was a joke, a joke they were doing.
The name was three
years ago.
Yeah,
they were thinking, oh, this would be funny if we had Evan Peters play this character. Ha ha.
Yes.
But that would have happened, after a lot of other things, after Black Widow, after whenever this show would have dropped in the original Phase 4 plan,
right?
And so it wouldn't have had quite the impact or quite the controversy that it had.
Yeah. So
now being out there and blowing in the wind, as it were.
Yeah, I think when he was asked specifically about, so was that a fake name, and is there going to be more with Evan Peters as Pietro? He kind of said, well, there is an X-Men movie coming up, right? So there
you go.
It seemed like there was more to it. I mean, there was he even talks about there was a scene with Jimmy Woo and Wanda and Vision's kids, the two kids, searching Agatha's house to try to find the Darkhold. And it just turned out, he goes, well, we kind of ran out of time and didn't really have the money for the effects, so that was kind of left on the cutting room floor when we went to a 9-episode plan. So there was quite a bit more there, it sounds like. And, I think that's where the rumors that people were like, oh, there's going to be a secret episode 10 came from, was that there was on some of the trade sites and stuff like that for some of the background actors and crew saying, no, 10 episodes of WandaVision. So it was obviously planned to be 10. They decided, listen, we need to rein it in, tell the story we're going to tell. And it just sounds like when they came, COVID again reared its head, and they were just like, well, we don't have time to shoot everything we wanted to for a 10th episode, and we need to retool this. Again, he also alluded to, and Paul Bettany too has alluded to, that this isn't the end for the Vision, that story will continue someplace else as well. And whether
but you
that's,
can't trust him. That Paul Bettany's a liar.
Yes, exactly. Whether it's Doctor Strange 2 or some other movie, it sounds, I think it's pretty good confirmation that Vision's not, we'll get the rest of that story somewhere else. So I think ultimately, maybe WandaVision was intended to set up more than what it did, and the threads that have been left dangling will be picked up and knitted into something else down the road. So no, it's
or some things could be. I mean, everything doesn't have to be part of a larger continuity, I suppose. Too, I think that they probably decided that this could just be its own story, and it could tell the story that it told, and it didn't necessarily have to be everything. It could be a complete arc.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're going to see more of Wanda, and we're going to see more of a Vision, or of the Vision. But,
I mean, they can do another
for this purpose. It's like a 6 issues or 8 issues or whatever story, and you're done.
I mean, they can do a 6-episode series of Vision if they wanted to for Disney Plus. I mean, I think that more than anything, WandaVision and its success has proven that we don't have to rely on just one medium or venue for Marvel Universe now. There's streaming. There's they can do podcasts for God's sakes if they wanted to, continuing stories.
Sure.
So I mean,
except you don't want to do podcasts. Those don't make any money.
No, but yeah, exactly. But no, again, like I said, it sounds like we were correct in that. Some things were retooled at the end. Things that would have been nice to have seen more of were intended but didn't happen, and things will be followed up on later. And along the same lines of, well, there is an X-Men movie coming out. One of them, Shackman or Schaefer, alluded to Darcy's story possibly continuing, because I guess the comment was kind of like, yeah, she's pretty awesome, isn't she? It'd be a shame if she wasn't seen again. So again, I think a lot of things are going to be picked up later. So
they have to be, right? So there's already going to be a lot of movies. There's already well, I guess my question is, now that we sort of have some I don't know, confirmation or whatever about the nature of this show, I wonder if it's going to be hard because Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming out very soon. I wonder if it's going to be hard for that show to sort of snap everybody back into Marvel does action and they fly around and blow stuff up. I'm concerned for that show a little bit, because now people are like, WandaVision was so intelligent and esoteric, and you had to think and whatever. And now it's just going to be these guys running around breaking stuff. So I don't know. I worry about the show a little bit, because it's not going to be maybe what people want from Marvel right now. Will it face any backlash? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it because I like those guys, and I like Winter Soldier especially. But that Sebastian Stan he's quite cool. But
he's dreamy.
He's dreamy. But so I don't know. I'm a little concerned, but I don't know if it'll matter that much.
Well,
the advanced buzz that I've heard is that it's great. It's a great show, but who knows?
I think the folks that scrutinized every syllable of WandaVision and every scene and extrapolated it to extremes and meant that, this is going to feed into 18 different movies, are going to do the same with Falcon and Winter Soldier. And that I agree. I think it's going to kind of be at a disadvantage, because it is going to, from what I've heard so far, at least from folks that have seen the first episode, it's definitely much more straightforward and mainstream than WandaVision. So, but again, you don't have to watch it. I mean, I guess you do if you're devotee to the
Everyone's going to watch it. Let's be honest. I mean, Disney Plus has got a fuck ton of subscribers, and they're going to keep bringing in the content, baby.
But they have warned everybody. They're like, all these TV shows are going to have different, much like the movies, have different tones and be in a different style. So it's kind of like, well, if you're expecting another conundrum within a mystery show for our Falcon Winter Soldier, that's kind of on you. It's, go in with no expectations and just enjoy it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, that's easy to say, but
I know I'm gonna enjoy it, but
I'm going to enjoy it too. But people are going to have to dissect it because we say you don't have to dissect everything, but then we did dissect WandaVision quite a bit.
We did,
maybe not to the level of some others, but we certainly did, and I'm sure
we will,
knowing us, that we will also do the same to Falcon Winter Soldier. But will it need as much analysis as WandaVision, or will it breed as much speculation? I don't know. All I've seen is trailers, and all we've seen is behind the scenes stuff a little bit, and knowing what we know about Marvel and its continuity and its movies, there will be stuff going on in there that will lead or will sort of give threads to other things, or will maybe even solve a couple of mysteries. Where was Cap, for example?
Right.
But it'll definitely lead into something else.
The vehicles post-credit sequence. Falcon and the Winter Soldier explained. Oh, sorry.
Explained.
I'm still
explain the ending. WandaVision ending. Explained.
Those trees in the background in WandaVision. Explained for 4 hours on a podcast.
Well, she created those trees, so there you go. Problem solved.
Explained for 4 hours.
5 minutes. Well, actually, those trees were probably already there. They were just transmuted into 50s trees, right?
Yes, they were younger trees.
Using chaos magic. They are chaos magic, Jeff. Or Joe. What's your name? I call you Jeff. That doesn't make any sense.
That's okay. I've been called worse.
You almost said Falcon and the Snowman, too.
I keep wanting to say that. That's a great movie, though. Falcon and the Snowman.
Yeah, if you've never seen that, Falcon and the Snowman, Sean Penn and who else? Who's in it? Oh, boy.
No, I don't remember. But
man.
I didn't research that movie. Come on.
Timothy Hutton.
Yes, that's right. Well, and so maybe the close naming is intentional because obviously including Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm sure is going to have some kind of espionage and spy craftery involved in it. Why not, right? So
it would have to.
Yeah, that can't be intentional. So.
It can't be an accidental thing. Yeah, it has to sort of evoke other things. But all the trailers we're getting is like it's an action-packed kind of thing. Although one of the trailers, I guess the main one, has them sort of in a therapy session together. Like, what happened? Why are you guys hate each other? It's they're the odd couple,
right? And
doing their superhero thing, but they still get along. Although it's funny in like Civil War, they both say "I hate you," which is amusing. But
yes, and this one too is going
will they get along? I don't know.
Is going to lead to other things because they've already said that. Don Cheadle will show up as War Machine at some point in this, and he's getting his own series, Armor Wars. So it's all connected.
Really, everyone going to get a series? It's going to be like Darcy doing is going to be doing recipes or something, right? No, that's
I would totally watch a Darcy cooking show. That would be great.
I would do a show where watch a show where Darcy is teaching in a college, like a quirky New England college. And also solves mysteries on the side. She gets a phone call on like the bat phone or whatever. It's not the bat phone, obviously, but she's like, "I gotta go, kids. I gotta solve a mystery." And she takes the mystery team. It's like Scooby Doo, only she's solving like metaphysical or like Norse or thunder, Thor crimes and stuff like that, mythological stuff and science crime, and it'd be fun. I'd watch that.
She's like, I've got a substitute teacher, Mr. Forbush, coming in, and it'll be like a CGI'd Stan Lee or something like that.
Good old Mr. Forbush.
Yes.
Oh no, she's like Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's perfect. I've got to go. The university needs me to get these antiquities, and
they belong in a museum. Yes,
these belong in a museum. I would totally watch that show. And then Jimmy Woo could be involved because he's her contact with the government, right?
Yes.
So he calls her up and says, "Oh boy, we got a problem. We got to go to Latveria or someplace, and there's some kind of artifact we got to find." And she's like, "I'll go," and she puts on her fedora and takes off. I would totally watch that.
And he meets her at the airport and has all her gadgets and all that kind of stuff. It'll be great.
Well, no, but because he's her government guy though, right? Because and they go off together.
Yes,
it's kind of like it'd be kind of like Fringe a little bit. And Jimmy more of a cynic? Is he more of the Scully? Do you think?
No, I don't think so.
I have to equate everything to X-Files.
He's into.
Well, he is into magic. That's true. Flourish.
Yes, that was a great callback. So, see, again, we should be writing this show, but in an alternate universe somewhere we are. So
But it's actually not a bad idea. If I do say so myself, it's not a bad idea. Now here we are just giving it away for free. Oh well.
Except now they're going to be like, oh, we were going to do that, but now this is out there, so now we can't because it'll look like we've stolen. We signed we digitally sign a thing saying you can use our idea. So.
Well, with payment, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, give us a
make the check out to
right and based on an idea by.
I would rather. Would you rather have the money or the credit?
Right now, at this point, I'd rather have the credit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. I mean, money would be great too, but I don't. I'd rather. I'm getting all that stimulus money from the government. So
so here's the thing: the credit is like a static thing that's in there. With the money, as well as I do, they could find ways to go. Yeah, we're not going to give those guys any money, but how are we going to bury this? It costs too much here. We don't really have anything to give you. A credit though is there forever. So
it is. They can't remove the credit, but they can accidentally forget to pay you or say that this thing was just so expensive. Look at all this money we had to spend on this. Well, sorry, kids. No profits for you.
Exactly. So.
But the credit's forever. You're right. You're absolutely right. I would totally take a credit for that too. So anyway, it's not going to happen, but it's fun. It's fun to speculate though, and I would definitely watch a show with her and Jimmy. Although I don't know. There needs to be another character. Who else would be in the show? There needs to be a third character who's kind of like Chris Hemsworth character in the Ghostbusters remake. Then there's to be like a himbo, maybe, who's actually really smart too. I don't know. I would turn the tropes on their sides and sort of mix it up a little bit.
Well, it might be too much money, but they could team Darcy, Jimmy, and Rocket together or something like that.
Oh my God, that would be funny.
Yeah. See, wouldn't that would be a great show?
Because you need a jaded cynic. There always needs to be a jaded cynic. Yeah. Darcy's kind of a wide-eyed. I mean, she's kind of cynical, but she's kind of an optimist too because she's seen some shit now. Yeah. And Jimmy is a government agent, but he's also seen some shit.
And of course, Rocket thinks he's in charge. Because that'd be great, because Rocket spent some time on Earth during the Infinity Wars Endgame kerfuffle, and probably was like, hey, this is kind of a cool place. I think, Quill, I'm going to hang out on Earth for a little while. And
solve crimes.
Yeah. I'm all for this.
Rocket's funny. I would totally watch Rocket. I mean, Rocket should actually have his own show, but you're right, it'd be way too expensive. And how are you going to get, honestly, how are you going to get Bradley Cooper to do it?
Yeah, he's not going to do that, but I would totally watch anything that they have that character in because he's just fantastic.
The Rocket and Groot show, right?
Yeah, see?
Just those two.
I'm sure, I think they're probably doing an animated one of those, but that's the only way they
could
do that. Really.
Yeah, but you still have to have the voices. At least, people could imitate Groot. It's not that hard. Yeah. But, no offense to Vin Diesel's acting chops, but Rocket has definitely a distinctive voice. I mean, maybe he loves it. Maybe he really enjoys it because he doesn't have to get, he doesn't have to really get dressed. He can do it in his pajamas.
Sure.
He's probably doing it from home. Who knows? But actors, I'm sure, like to look good, but they don't always want to get dressed up every second if they don't have to.
Exactly, and it's probably a decent paycheck for, just talking into a mic. That would be nice because we don't get that, but hey, whatever.
A decent paycheck for talking into a mic now.
Yeah. Sorry,
you got to work on your you got to work on your Rocket Raccoon imitation or impression, I guess is the word.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. So, anyway, Falcon and Winter Soldier's coming up, and you know what else is coming up,
what?
Joe? I know you're excited for this.
I know.
We're finally going to see what all the fuss is about. The Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. My God, it's so exciting! What an amazing month we're having.
Yep, Thursday the 18th, next Thursday. So, expect that we're going to spend a bit of time on the next episode talking about it.
Well, the question is, we're not going to get the whole thing in one thing, though, because it's broken up, right? So
no, that's not true anymore. They're saying the whole thing's dropping.
What's the new 411? Everything comes out at once?
Apparently, it's back to being a 4-hour-long movie and not a miniseries.
My God, that's amazing. 4 hours. I mean, how long was the movie? How long was the Whedon cut? 2.5 hours?
Something like that. Yeah, I think it was a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that.
What exactly are we going to get for another 2.5 hours?
Well, and a lot of what we saw in the Whedon cut isn't going to be in this one, too, because he's not using any stuff that Whedon shot. And apparently Whedon shot like 60% of what we saw on the screen. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. So there must be so much stuff, and especially if he supposedly didn't shoot anything else. Wow, there was so much footage. That is crazy.
Yeah, so...
I can't even
You know?
imagine. People are going to be mad that it's not widescreen too. They're going to be like, "Oh, looks terrible. Why is it not filling up my screen? Why did I
Yeah.
pay so much money for the 60:9 TV?" I'm just anticipating the
Oh
backlash to
yeah,
the
it's gonna be like, why
backlash.
does it look like it's on an old TV? It just sucks and stuff. It's like, well, okay.
You asked for this, kids. That's why.
You demanded this, and here you go. Be careful what you wish for, kind of thing. I'm looking forward to it, though. I think it's going to be
I just, you know
really
what?
good.
There's been so much hype at this point. I just want it to come out so we can get it done.
I know. It's like, let's be done with this.
So now we can know if it's a piece of shit or if it's amazing or if
Right?
it falls somewhere in the middle. And I'm assuming it's going to fall somewhere in the middle because
Yeah.
there's no way something like this could live up to the hype. It's not possible.
No, I mean, there's going to be the people, especially the ones that demanded it, have already written their screeds about how much they hate it. You just know it.
Well, yeah, that's their right to
Yeah.
come back and go, wow, this is not what we wanted. This is bullshit. But there's always going to be some Snyder apologists out there. And I think you know what? My personal opinion about Zack Snyder is he seems like a nice guy. And the few times we interviewed him, whatever, and met him in places, he was always, he was cool.
Yeah.
You can debate his relative talent or whatever. He doesn't seem like a dick or anything. And I've never heard one story of him acting like a dick.
No, not at all.
Which is unusual for Hollywood for sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that he's getting this chance. Like we talked about before, I'm happy that he's getting a chance to show his vision. And he kind of got, not fucked over, but kind of horrible circumstances prevented him from doing the movie the way he was going to do. And so now he gets kind of a do-over.
Yes.
Which, of course, some people would argue, why is this, guy getting a chance to make another version of this when so many other filmmakers don't get to do anything? And I agree with that, too. There should be more people, more diversity in the number of voices that get to make stuff. But
Yes.
here's somebody who has a proven track record. Here's somebody who had a vision, and he's getting a chance to express it. Because of the fans in a lot of ways. And so why not? I hope it's good. I really do. I wish it all success and all luck, but it's not going to please everybody, and nothing ever does. So.
I anticipate enjoying it. I'll be honest. The Justice League that we got, I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay.
Martha.
I'm really interested to see what this is because I don't think I'm a Zack Snyder fanboy, but I like the movies he's put together so far, especially Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman. I enjoyed those, and I've liked several of his past movies. Again, I think we've talked about this before that people like Zack Snyder, Michael Bay, some other folks of that ilk are really kind of trashed on, and maybe arguably put out kind of fluff movies or big spectacle movies, but they know how to put movies together. And if you talk to them or read interviews with them, they are really invested and really enjoy their craft and storytelling. So it's like, you know what? I think it'll be fine.
I saw a whole thing about that. There's a lot of things out there that analyze filmmakers like Michael Bay and Zack Snyder. I saw this thing one time where they were talking about Zack Snyder and how he's a big fan of the moments, like the visual moments in a movie, more than the storytelling aspects. The scenes don't necessarily add up to things because every scene, if you're talking about screenplay 101, every scene should sort of build on the next scene and on the next scene. Every scene should be its own sort of self-contained thing, which gives you information and does whatever, communicates a mood, et cetera, et cetera. You can read about that. There's lots of books about screenwriting, but he doesn't necessarily do that all the time. It's like more visual moments, things that kind of evoke emotion more than anything else, which is a way to go. And obviously, it works for him, so people like it.
Here's my thing on that is I think, especially probably in the last 10 to 15, maybe 20 years, there's been too much. I don't even know if I'm going to express this right. There seems to be too much of a hang up on every piece of entertainment should be the real world with just this added element to it, right? Like, so a Superman movie should be just like we're living in our regular real world, except there happens to be Superman in it. And I don't always agree with that. If I want to see like real world stuff and things that make sense in reality, I'll go outside. I'll go to the mall. I am more interested in entertainment that tells a really good story, and I don't necessarily care about the details. I don't need to know what kind of engine or things that are under the hood of the Batmobile to allow it to do what it does. I don't care about that. It looks cool on screen, and it's not supposed to be, a Chevy Impala that's dressed up. It's the Batmobile. It's not, I don't care what mechanism caused, Kal-El's rocket to be able to travel from however many trillions of miles away from Krypton to Earth. I don't need to spend in hours and days and months of my life trying to figure out how that actually happened. It happened. It just got here. That's not the important part of the story. The military call signs and Transformers are not the important part of the story. Who cares about that? Apparently there are people that do.
Well, some people do care about that.
But I'm like, it's not the real world. It's a story. It's fiction. It's not supposed to be the real world. It's, I don't know. Maybe.
That's interesting. That's interesting you say that, because you're right. Superman, like Man of Steel, for example, is basically, except for all the interesting world building at the beginning, which I've watched the movie subsequently, since I watched it the first time, I was like, what is this? This is kind of weird. I wasn't as into it maybe as I was. I don't know what was going on in my life then. But as I've watched the movie again and again, I've grown to appreciate that world building more. It's kind of cool the way Krypton looks in that movie. And I think that you're right, though. It's like he comes to Earth, and it's basically Earth except for, we also have this Ubermensch, right? Superman.
Right.
In my world, this means hope. Oh, here it looks like an S. That's kind of funny.
Yes.
And so I kind of like that. Like Batman exists in the real world, except he's got these gadgets and whatever. But basically, it's Chicago, right? In Batman Begins, in Christopher Nolan. I think in some ways Christopher Nolan is kind of responsible for that a little bit more than Zack Snyder, even because Nolan came first with the Batman trilogy. How it was basically, we're going to shoot in all these practical locations because he hates CGI and everything for the most part. So we're going to do all this practically. It's a real city with this. Oh, by the way, here's the Batmobile. Here's Joker blowing up stuff, but it's still realistic, except for this superhero element that's sort of laid on top of it to kind of make it super fantastic. But
it's still a fictionalized real world.
Right.
It's not supposed to be. I mean, people get thrown around and stuff. I actually kind of appreciated that they showed the devastation and the fallout in Man of Steel, because normally you don't get to see that. But I still wasn't like, well, that building wouldn't fall like that. That's not that. That just took me out of the movie. It's like, no, it's like, come on.
Yeah. He also got a lot of shit for that too, which is why they're like, they made sure of saying that in the next one. We got to take this away from the city. This island's not inhabited right now. It's abandoned. So we're not going to. Yeah.
Even like, Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man are stories that are real life stories about actual people. Those are still fictionalized. There's still parts of it that are done out of order. There are, parts that are played up to a bigger degree to tell an entertaining story. So it's like even things that are supposed to be real life in fiction, in entertainment, are not real. So it's
it's funny you say Rocket Man. I just watched that recently. I didn't realize. I mean, I know it's about Elton John. Obviously, I knew that going in, but I didn't realize it was an actual musical.
Oh,
so I was surprised.
Yes.
I was like, oh, he's starting to sing during this therapy scene. I was like, oh, this is an actual musical where people are going to sing for stuff. I didn't catch. I caught that. I mean, it caught me off guard, is what I'm saying. But I enjoyed the movie a lot. I didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody as much, but I thought Rocket Man was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed them both. But again, there's things were taken out of sequence. Things were sensationalized or done to better suit the story they were trying to tell. So,
it's dramatic license, right? That's why it's based on a true story, not an actual true story. If you want to see that, watch a documentary. Although documentaries still sometimes edit things to make you think a certain way too. So.
To say a thing that is supposed to be completely fictional doesn't hold water because, shock absorbers on a car wouldn't do that. It's like, really? Come on. So,
So I'm confused though. Do you like that aspect of, say, Man of Steel, or don't like it?
I like the realism of Man of Steel, but even then, it's still not real. I mean, it's like,
no, there's not a Superman, obviously, but
right.
There should be, but there is.
Even like the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, that's real world, but Superman. But even that is heightened and it's fictionalized, and so I don't mind going for realism, but to scrutinize the movie and then say it doesn't hold water and that it falls apart because every aspect of it couldn't happen in real life. Well, yeah, it's a movie. It doesn't happen. It's not happening in real life.
Yeah. That's absolutely true.
It's not someone sitting there with their actual phone actually videoing what's happening. It's fiction. So, So I don't know. That's my rant for this week. It's just like,
That wasn't much of a rant, really. That was kind of like a reasoned argument. It's not. You're saying that movies aren't real. I don't know. It's amazing to me,
even like the much maligned Martha moment in Batman versus Superman. That's like that's a perfect storytelling beat. That's like, well, yeah, of course. And they were like, well, Batman wouldn't just stop and it's like, no, he wouldn't, but he did in that because the story said he did, because it's fiction.
Well, right. And you know what? You could make an argument that makes sense because up to that moment, he had always regarded Superman as an alien, but to find out that he has a mother, I don't know. It's cheesy.
It doesn't have to make sense. It's
cheesy. Sure.
Yes.
It's trite, cheesy, whatever you want to call it. And it's definitely the whole rest of the movie hinges on this kind of weak moment in a way. Some people were saying weak moment.
But it's where the story led to. I mean,
it didn't bother me.
The story
it didn't bother me, though.
Built that, and that was a perfect moment in the story. And to me, I was like, and I'll be completely honest, and this is how much of an idiot I am. I didn't connect the fact that both their mothers had the same name until that moment in that movie. After all these years of reading comics, never even occurred to me. It's like, their moms have the same name. And at that moment, I've seen
so many times where, because you always talk about Bruce Wayne's dad, right?
Right.
Thomas Wayne, he gets mentioned a lot, but they don't mention Martha Wayne at all.
Right.
So Martha must have been a popular name back in the day. So
and the Kents, his parents are always Ma and Pa, right? So
right. Or Jonathan, because
yes.
Jonathan gets mentioned. Like in Smallville, they always mention Jonathan Kent. Oh, Jonathan
yes.
Kent. But in you hardly ever hear Martha. But yeah, it's always that's funny.
So that
Clark Kent, everyone knows that.
It's like, well, of course that would pull him out of it as far as the story was going. It's like that to me was actually that was like a moment, and I thought it worked fine in the story. So again,
Superman is selfless, right? Because he's thinking about his own death, but someone's got to save my mom. Someone's got to save Martha.
It's just like the guys on the Star Trek podcast, Mission Logs. They were talking about how, during the Next Generation, because they go through episode by episode, and they're like, people at the time on one particular episode were like, Riker, last season said he wouldn't do this, and he did that in this episode. And it was actually a big plot point in that episode. And I forget exactly what it was, but they were like, well, of course he did in that episode because the story demanded that he did. The story needed him to. It's, it isn't that these are real life characters and we're telling their biographies and their stories. It's that we're telling stories set in space in the Star Trek universe, and even the main characters are going to sometimes behave differently or do something that they may have offhand said they won't do because that's what the story needs. I mean, the characters are there to serve the story. It isn't the other way around. And so it's
right. I'm sure. Yeah. If Riker needs to do something like shave his beard or whatever, or pull his shirt down, he'll do it. Right.
And I don't think it's necessary, to spend 3 hours or an episode explaining why they did it. They did it because the story. I always butcher it, but Grant Morrison had the famous quote about nobody cares who pumps the tires on the Batmobile. It's a fucking story. It doesn't matter.
Well, Alfred clearly does that.
Well, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What Superman said, back in 1978 in the Christopher Reeve movie that he doesn't like peas. Yet in Man of Steel, he ate peas, and that's canon that he doesn't like peas. What the hell? It's like, really? It's a story.
Well, it's also canon. It's also canon that he doesn't kill people either. But yeah.
Yes, but he has before.
Before, and he had to kill Zod, right? Because otherwise Zod would never stop.
So. Right. And what's Zod going to do? Go to jail and go, oh, okay, you beat me.
Yeah. What jail's going to hold? What jail's going to hold him? And he gave him every chance. I watched that movie again recently. I've watched a lot of them recently, including the other cut of Justice League and everything, just to sort of get ready.
He gave him many chances.
He did. He gave him many chances, and then Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, people
And
just
people
think
are
these.
like, well, why didn't the family just run and move out of the way? And why didn't he just knock him out? I'm like, because that's not what the story wanted. That's not what they were trying to tell in that story. They wanted to show
No,
this and it be a traumatic thing for Superman that, not only is this one of his last people, but he had to kill him to save, people. And that, to me, that's like, okay, Superman's like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. Right. So it's like that's the birth of I don't kill. I'm sure before that
right.
it had occurred to him, yeah, I'm too powerful. I could kill someone. I don't want to do that. But until that point, it's like, okay, so that's what that feels like, and that this is what that means and the impact it has. I shouldn't do that anymore, especially because I can at a moment's notice, right? But
Right.
more importantly, that's what that part of the story needed to have. And again, if you want to reason it out in the real world, there's no jail and there's no incarceration for and no rehabilitation for Zod. He was hell bent on this is what I'm going to do and nothing's going to stop me, and I will murder and kill, pillage or whatever as much as I need to in order to
Well,
get this
yeah,
end.
he literally says he'll never stop destroying
Right.
the people that Kal-El cares about. He said, "I will never stop killing everybody you love."
Right,
Sorry,
right.
never gonna happen.
Exactly. And I think we've had this debate before too, where I brought up like the Joker. The Joker is never ever going to change what he does. And every time he gets out of, whatever jail can't hold him, he murders and kills. So that's on Batman from there. The only, at that point, Batman should say, "Hey, Superman, could you take this guy to,
Yeah,
some other
take him to the
planet or
moon or
something?"
something. Yeah, throw him into the sun. Let's be done.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, they're not they go through all this thing of like Batman's not beholden by the law because he's a vigilante, yet he's beholden by these parts of the law because that's just his code. It's like, well, all right. So,
Well, it's the classic anti-hero trope, right? He
right,
doesn't necessarily have to follow the law, but he's got a code, a moral code. He's got a line he won't cross,
right.
and so the line he won't cross is I won't murder anybody. Yet he's still,
Much,
he should. I mean, you can make the case that he should murder the Joker, right? I mean, you can make the case, like you just said, that Joker is never going to be really. He's basically causing more suffering
right.
because he won't cross that line. And I'm not
Or
saying you should kill people,
or
but
maybe not even kill him, but he knows, like, look at all the heroes that he knows from other planets, from magical beings, all this kind of stuff.
yeah,
It's like, hey, we need to solve this problem because this guy's going to continue to kill. And that's kind of on me because, I let him live when I could have killed him initially when I caught him. So I'm sure at a Justice League meeting, it could be like, hey, listen, we have these guys that are going to continue to do
new
this.
business. I need to.
What should we,
Yeah.
I'm sure we can come up with this. We can figure out how to move planets and save ancient civilizations on far off planets. I'm sure we can solve the Joker problem, right?
Moon prison.
Kind of the
Right?
same thing with everyone brings up, well, nobody can, and this came up recently because Superman revealed his secret identity in the comics to the world, and everyone's like, well, none of the heroes could ever reveal their secret identity because the bad guys would immediately come after their loved ones. And I'm like, you mean to tell me in DC Comics specifically, where all superheroes are friends with Superman, with Batman, with people that escape from prisons on other planets and stuff like that, that they can't come up with ways to, and magical beings, they can't come up with ways to protect their loved ones, right? I'm like, so they're just like, hey, I'm not going to take advantage of Batman's knowledge of gadgets and Dr. Fate's knowledge of magic. I'm just going to let my loved ones go about their lives unprotected. It's like, what? That makes no sense to me.
Well,
So,
that's the difference between when you're making a comic. I suppose there's a lot of differences between that and a
yes.
movie. But in a movie, you can't have every character show up. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, of course.
why?
Of course.
Why doesn't Batman call for help? Why doesn't Batman ask Green Lantern for help? Or why doesn't Superman do this? Or why? Because you can't. You're just not going to be able to have all those characters in the movie. But it's like that's the problem with Marvel movies too. It's like, well, just where was Captain Marvel this whole time? She could have solved a lot of problems.
Sure.
Where was she in the
Absolutely,
first
yes.
Infinity War? It's like,
Well, they do that in the
that's-
comics too. I'm like, well, they
Yeah.
could just get Flash to do this, or they guess, and obviously the characters have to have their own stories. But to me, that's like when people start pressing those questions. Well, it doesn't hold up to me because they can't reveal their secret identity because of this. And I'm like, well, then tell the story where they can do that and what the fallout is. I want to see that. I want to see those stories, but yeah, it's just kind of like
What happens to Tony Stark? He says, "I am Iron Man," and nothing.
right. Immediately,
the,
Pepper wasn't immediately murdered after that, right? So,
well, I guess not exactly.
And what did he do in the movies? He set up things to protect everybody, his employees,
right.
his, so it's like, come on. So,
he was a good boss, maybe.
Kind of.
Except he doesn't like to be handed things. So
right, exactly. But I'm just saying,
right.
It's like, yeah. Anyway, but
well, yeah, you make a good point. It's like there's no. It's like managing expectations, like we talked about last week. There's no. You're talking about movies. You're talking about fictional characters, superheroes, science fiction. Like it's a movie about laser swords,
right.
and robots. It's not real.
Right, and they're
going to about
tell
people who can move stuff with their minds. So they're going to move. They're going to tell a story the best they can. I think what it comes down to is people, audiences, fans try to take ownership of these things, and then they feel like they're entitled to say, "This is how it should have been. This is." It's been going on forever. I mean, look at, people who used to watch like original Star Trek. They basically saved the show because they were very excited about the show, and that's great. And they know every little, I mean, there's been stories about that. Like Shatner tells that story about, people are asking him in episode 20, whatever. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know why Kirk did that. It's like
Saturday Night Live sketch. Get a life.
Get a life. Yeah, that's what the script said.
Right. Exactly.
The other thing is characters. Also, people want characters to remain static. They want them to be the character they fell in love with. They don't necessarily want them to change or grow because people change. Like I might not want to kill Joker when I'm 30-year-old Batman because I have a code. But if I'm world weary and I've been doing this for 20 years, Alfred, how many things have we seen in this city? It's like I might just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm tired of this shit, and I'm gonna pull the trigger finally.
Yes.
People change. Like Superman in Man of Steel, that's the first time he's basically been Superman, right? Basically been tested. So he does that to Zod, and then that's the end. He doesn't do it again. That's what, like you said, that's the growth of the character.
Right.
And Batman in Justice League is world weary Bruce Wayne who's done a lot of shit. And it's like, fuck, I got to kill Superman. This is ridiculous. And so he tries to kill him, and then he realizes, hey, you are a human.
Yeah.
Do you bleed? But you do.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yes.
And so and they come together. Because people come together, and that's what the story is about. Justice League. It's not about Superman killing Batman or vice versa. They do come together, and they find common ground.
Right.
They find their shared humanity. And in some ways, Batman is saved too because he finds his humanity a little bit more, and then realizes he needs to get people to work together instead of trying to kill everybody.
Well, and there's that one point in the comics where Batman is a flat-out hypocrite. It's like, so he won't kill any of his bad guys that are never going to be rehabilitated. Yet at one point, he had dossiers on every single superhero in existence and how to kill them in case they went out of control. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Well, it does. I mean, yeah, he's perfectly happy to kill
his friends.
Superman.
Yes.
Well, no, in the movie, he's perfectly happy to try to kill Superman because he's an alien. And if there's a 1% chance he's evil or whatever, I'm trying to remember the line in the movie, but then we have to treat that as an absolute certainty. It's like, okay, now we've got to kill him.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing that's interesting is he walks past the Robin costume, right?
Yes.
And he sees that obviously Joker had killed Robin. But we don't ever know what happens to Joker, except in this new Snyder Cut, apparently he does confront Joker.
Yes,
so,
yes, exactly. But,
we live in a society.
Again, it's going to be the story. We're not telling real life people stories. We're telling a fictional story that we want to say some things about or just entertain with. And so the characters are going to behave in a manner that suits the story. And to hold them to real life logic and how things would happen in reality just doesn't hold water for me, and it's not a thing that should be done because it's not. I mean, maybe there were people back in the day like the Grimm fairy tales that were like, well, that would never happen in real life. How would you do that?
Well, there probably was, but it's not as mass consumed now or whatever. You just gotta enjoy things for what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to speculate. Obviously, we still do it.
Sure.
It's fun to talk about things and whatever, and it's fun to do a lot of stuff because that's it's part of our deal. But
bringing that up, I mean, WandaVision, we speculated the hell out of a bunch of stuff, but the fact that
Yeah.
they didn't pan out didn't ruin the whole thing for me. They were still told their story, and they told in my mind, a complete story, and I was entertained by it and enjoyed it. If those other things had happened, even better, cool, but it didn't.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty angry about it.
Are you really?
I'm gonna boycott Disney and Marvel now.
I'm gonna only hate watch those movies from now on. So
That was I'm only gonna hate watching. That was the fun part. It's the fun part is try to figure stuff out. I looked at it as a big mystery box that you can open up and pull stuff out.
yes,
And try to figure it out. I was happy to be wrong. I didn't double down as hard as some people, especially, websites and YouTube channels that have to make content all the time and dive into
Right.
this stuff deeply. And and for better or worse, took their lumps and said, you know what, we were wrong about a lot of stuff. I mean, there were a lot of clues for things, but they didn't pan out. Maybe they'll pan out later. It's just, and at the end of the day, it's just a show, and it doesn't mean as much to me as it does to other people, obviously. So
I'm totally paraphrasing this, but there was a joke article that came out, and the headline was WandaVision was a failure because it didn't pay off any of the things I wasn't promised. So
right,
it's like,
yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
It's like, really, you hate this thing because none of your theories and speculation came true. What? So,
No, I think that it was an ironic article where he was saying that
absolutely,
it failed.
yes.
Okay, good.
No,
sorry,
I
I didn't mean to mansplain to you.
No, that I totally got the spirit of the headline. I was extrapolating that to the people that were pissed off because
Oh, sure.
my speculation didn't come true, so this thing was terrible and a failure. I'm like, what?
You're dead. You're dead to me.
So are you telling me that you wrote the scripts and they took all your stuff out of it? No, you had nothing to do with this except as a spectator. You don't own this. And I guess, with Superman, especially having 85 years of history and, basically a ton of reboots and different writers over the years, there are parts of Superman and the character that people feel very vested in and very interested in, and that's the Superman they want to see. And but my thing is, I have an idealized version and an era of Superman that to me is like the best, and I would love to see that in movies and TV. But it doesn't mean that the version that I get of Superman is terrible and horrible. It's
Well, yeah, I like the Christopher Reeve version, but I like the new version. I think Henry Cavill's doing a good job. I mean, it's just.
And I like Superman and Lois, the TV series. I like the Superman
and
as a
he's doing
dad.
good.
It's
Tyler
pretty
Hoechlin.
great.
Yeah, he's doing a good job too.
So.
I mean, it's. Anyway, you're right though. It's all the fans' problem. It's their fault.
True fans
for taking this stuff too seriously. For the true fans, yes, taking this too seriously. But I mean, I've always loved all of these things, and I'm sure that my view of this stuff has changed over the years. I don't take it quite as seriously as I did back in the day. But I also don't blame people because right now, especially, they don't have a lot of other things going on, maybe, and they're trying to cling to something or trying to find joy in something. And part of that was, let's figure out what's going on. And they enjoyed the speculation.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take that away from you. You go ahead and do your thing. Enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
It's okay.
But just relax and enjoy stuff. Don't hate on it because.
Well, the other thing is, if you're really upset about something, in 5 or 10 years, they're going to just redo it anyway.
Yes.
So
and nothing, especially fiction and storytelling, because of all the people involved and everything it goes through, nothing's ever going to be perfect. I know people have talked about, this is a perfect movie or a perfect TV show. I still don't think those necessarily exist because of all the people it needs to go through and all the things that happen. At any point in making something, there isn't any fiction or entertainment that's ever going to be perfect. Close, sure, but it's just enjoy stuff.
It's
man.
It's going to be perfect for some people, but there's always going to be somebody who hates it.
Yeah, enjoy stuff. Entertainment isn't meant to emotionally damage you. It's meant to entertain. And with all the movies and all the TV shows and everything out, and the way it's been for the last, decade, there'll be something else that you will enjoy. There will be something that will do the thing that you want. Maybe not with the same character, but there's plenty of entertainment out there for everybody. So.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say that because I always thought that the purpose of art and I'm not saying everything is art, but I always thought the purpose of art was to provoke an emotional response, and so it does become a part of you sometimes. Now, whether you let that dominate your thinking,
Right.
I don't know, but people do get pretty worked up about stuff, and they do take it to heart quite a bit, and they do get moved by it, and it does become a part of you. I mean, it's a cliche, you know, but it's true. Now, whether that should be the only thing in your life, I don't know. That's debatable, but and whether you should get angry when people don't agree with you, I think is probably not healthy.
Right.
And berate people who don't agree with you that it's the greatest thing ever.
Especially people that enjoy things, and then 85 people jump in to tell you
someone
how
wants
you
to tear it
shouldn't
down.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like,
They say,
what?
well, you're stupid for liking this. It's dumb.
Okay.
So that's not necessary.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's not really a representative sample of most fans.
No.
You're
True
just getting
fans.
the worst. Well, yeah, you're just getting you're getting the worst or the best. It's like people. We've talked about this before, but it's like anybody who comments about something, they're either happy about it or they're really pissed off about it. Right. No, most of the people are in the middle. It's like product reviews.
Yes.
For something. The guy who was really excited about it is like, oh, this was the greatest thing ever. Or it's the pissed off person who's like, this is a piece of shit. So most people are probably satisfied. And that's the kind of entertainment that we get most of the time now.
Yes.
So, and many creators will tell you this, who started this back in the day. It's like, you have to make the thing for yourself to please yourself, because you will not please everybody. There's always going to be people who hate something.
I mean, you can definitely include things that, this would be nice for the fans, or this would be a good callback. I mean, the Marvel stuff is full of Easter eggs and callbacks and stuff like that. And I think all that is great, but you're right. The only way the story is going to work, and maybe it won't work sometimes, but the only way you can do a thing and complete it is to tell what you want to tell. Do it for yourself, and if nobody else likes it, that's on them, right? So
well, yeah, it's like the Mandalorian season finale. They brought back Luke Skywalker, for God's sake, and yet people were pissed off about that. Now, granted, it kind of looked like shit.
Yeah, it didn't look the best, and people were like, "I could do that better on my computer." It's like,
and they did. Some people did,
and they did, but
on their
you weren't there, and
but that's not the point. The point is they brought back in an ultimate act of fan service. They brought back Luke Skywalker, for God's sake.
Exactly.
And people were angry about it. Some people were angry about it.
So
mostly
again,
because it didn't look good. So
that
I can't please everybody.
You can give.
I was
fans
excited
what they want.
Although I don't know.
Be pissed. Yeah.
I was almost more excited to see R2-D2. He aged really well.
He
R2
did.
Looks great.
He did.
Doesn't he?
I don't think they had to do much makeup on him. He looked pretty great.
No, he looked great.
Yeah.
He looked really good. So. Anyway, I don't know. I'm a fan, and I always will be. We're talking about things that age and things that people take ownership of and things that they love. I've been reading a lot of audiobooks. I should say I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks and books that I have not necessarily ever listened to before, but I've read a bunch of times. Like I just finished and talk about a book that was controversial and people don't like now for some reason. But Starship Troopers, did you ever read that book?
I did. Long
Robert Heinlein.
Yes.
Heinlein.
Yes.
So I listened to the audiobook recently, and it was weird. I actually felt more of a connection to the book, because I've read it like 50 times probably. More of a connection to the book than I've felt in a long time. And I don't know if it's because of the times that we're going through or whatever, but there was several times during the time when I was listening to several points during the listening of it that I felt kind of like emotional. I was like, wow, this is, it hit more home. And again, people can make comments about its militarization and its philosophy and its politics and whatever. It's still a great book. I don't necessarily agree with all the things that Heinlein agreed with or said.
Sure.
But it was interesting for its depiction of, equality of the sexes, for example, or the fact that the hero of the book is revealed to be, from a totally different country. He's not some heroic white dude.
Right.
And that was a pretty big deal back in the 50s. So it's a cool book. But I've been listening to more audiobooks. Like I'm listening to World War Z now, which is really cool for an audiobook because all the interviews and stuff are different actors doing it, and they're really doing well. Although I will say this, and no disrespect to this guy, but there was one point where Nathan Fillion is doing a character, and I'm like, it's Nathan Fillion. You can't really not hear him.
Right.
He's doing an interview where he's portraying a Canadian soldier who does something. I don't know if you read the book or are familiar with it, but it's basically
But
Okay.
go ahead.
So and I'm like, wow, he sounds like Mal, or he sounds like he's got a very distinctive voice, and that kind of took me out of it for a second.
That's fair.
But I'm really enjoying the audiobooks. So if you've never done audiobooks, audience members, it's definitely interesting. Audible is one way to go, but there's a lot of other places. There's places that have free audiobooks, but I mean, Audible is the one we do because we have Amazon everything. So.
Back in the before times when I actually had a commute to work, I listened the hell out of audiobooks because it was a good way to spend time in traffic.
Me too. That's what I started when
yeah.
I was commuting. Yeah.
And I haven't done that in a long time because, I don't have a commute anymore. I'm working at home. But it's something I have several of them, especially the Doctor Who audience or full cast audios from Big Finish Productions that are stacked up that I really want to listen to. So I need to get back into that.
It's just fun. I what I do is I will put it in and put my headphones on when I'm going to go to bed. And so I listen for like a half hour, 20 minutes, whatever, and then it helps me fall asleep. I know it's weird. Why are you listening to a book about zombies when you're falling asleep? I'm like, well, you know what? It's just interesting. I know that zombies aren't real, so it's okay.
Yes.
Or are they? I don't know. But it helps me fall asleep sometimes. They also have other things. Audible, for example, has, and this is not a commercial for Audible or anything, but they have other things now where you can do, they have sounds and stuff that help you fall asleep and whatever too, which is kind of fun.
I used to do that too, listen to audiobooks to fall asleep back in my single days. And you're right, it was a good way. I mean, the next night I would have to, backtrack quite a bit because stuff I missed.
That's true. Sometimes you miss stuff. But like for Starship Troopers, I've read that book so many times that I know the story. But I did catch new things, and I've caught new things in some of the other books that I listened to. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, or I forgot that point, or maybe because when you read, I don't know about you, but when I'm reading something, I don't necessarily I read pretty fast, so I feel like I miss stuff sometimes.
Yeah, same here. And
so I'm not getting every word. Like I listened to Dune, and I'm like, I'm sure that I heard stuff in that reading that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah,
because like Dune's like, okay, more stuff about spice. Yeah, I get it. The spice is life. Blah blah blah. Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think Starship Troopers especially is one I need to revisit because the only time I've read it was like back in high school, and I know I was not equipped at the time to really understand a lot of what was going on in it and stuff like that. So,
well, it's weird militaristic kind of like everyone has to fight in order to to serve a term to be able to vote,
right?
Which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know why I like the book so much. I started reading it in junior high school, I think, and I just sort of kept up with it. And I found that book, and I found Dune, and a couple of other ones. And I just started, that's kind of what sparked my interest in sci-fi, I guess. And so I stuck with that. And then, of course, Lord of the Rings, which I read first.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
That's way too complicated. I'm going to do the audiobooks of that, but I gotta prepare myself for that one.
Yeah,
but
that's going to be a while.
That's a slog.
Yeah.
But, and I did The Martian. Will Wheaton did that one. That was really good.
That was fantastic.
He was great at that.
Both read the book and listened to it. And both.
Yeah. And seen the movie.
Yes, and have seen the movie. Correct. Yes.
You talk about perfect movies. That's pretty close to a perfect movie. It's really well done.
Yeah, you're right. That is pretty close to it. Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah.
So anyway, so audiobooks, that was kind of like a pick
in
a way if you want to go with that. I would say if you've never tried audiobooks, you can try them. Or if you've if you've gone away from them, then come back. But it is just and now I'll sit on the couch downstairs, or I'll sit in my office and I'll just put the headphones on rather than I feel like it's better in some ways than just vegging out in front of the TV or playing video games or recording podcasts or other useless things like that. So
there you go.
You're getting exposed to literature and I mean Starship Troopers maybe is not literature, but I don't know. It depends on how you define it, I guess. But it's a good book. I enjoy it, and if you can get past some of the militaristic aspects of it,
yeah, then
it's definitely worth it. So,
well,
but things are a product of their times too, right? It's like
absolutely,
it was written in a certain time, and it doesn't necessarily hold up. And there's a lot of things like that, but you have to appreciate them for when they were written in some ways, and not necessarily vilify them based on today's standards. So,
correct.
That's my opinion anyway. So, if you've been jumping into anything else, any other shows that we should talk about, or we're going to get to? I know we're going to talk about For All Mankind, which is back for season 2, but we're not going to talk about it today.
Well, I actually need to get caught up on that real quick, and then we will talk about that. The only other thing I wanted to really give a shout out to before we go is a couple shows that I am highly anticipating. Not because I think they're going to be the way that I want them to be, but because I want to see them. that have started actually shooting and are in production. Raised by Wolves season 2, thankfully. Really loved season 1 of that, so I'm looking forward to where the show goes from there. And also Star Trek Strange New Worlds has started shooting as well, and I'm looking forward to that because I want to see more of Pike and Number 1 and Spock. They introduced like 5 new cast members, although they didn't say what characters they're playing. But yeah, both of those are shooting, so it's a good sign that entertainment is still here and our shows are still here, even though we're kind of getting them in chunks and pieces right now. But I'm looking forward to those 2 shows and many others. But it's good to know that things are shooting and moving along. It sounds like, if you want to call entertainment, all of entertainment, Hollywood, it sounds like the movie and TV industry has gotten into a good rhythm and a good understanding of how to keep people safe and healthy, but at the same time be able to make their product, which is good. We benefit from that, of course. But yeah, no.
Yeah. As long as nobody gets hurt, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it sounds like some of the producers and directors and stuff on Star Trek Discovery were talking about a lot of the things that they implemented and how they shoot things now, and it's maybe unfortunate that they have to do it that way, but to me it was kind of fascinating because, again, it's another industry that's like, well, we're not just going to give up and go away, so how do we do this and still keep people from dying, right? And keep people healthy.
Well, entertainment people are pretty resilient and they're pretty industrious, so I'm sure if somebody was going to figure out a way to keep making money, keep making things and creating, that's what I meant, then they were going to do it. Yeah, as long as they're doing it safely, and it seems like they are.
Yep.
A lot of productions are, and I'm happy to see Star Trek shows. I love Star Trek shows, and the Anson Mount and Rebecca Romijn show. I'm down with that, definitely.
Yep. So,
but yeah, I was just going to say one more thing before about For All Mankind. It's scratching my itch for Expanse. So it's another one of those sort of hard sci-fi shows, which I feel like started a little rough for me in the first season. I don't know why, just a tiny bit, but they've really, really, I don't want to say turned it around, but they've really kind of improved everything, in my opinion, for the second season. I'm really enjoying the second season a lot, and it's like, there's a lot of cool stuff.
I'm excited to jump
definitely
into
worth watching. So
the second season. The first season, you're right, there was, but in hindsight, a lot of it was world building too, and letting what this altered universe is like. But yeah, there were definitely some rough bits. But yeah, I've heard from you and other people that the second season just is fantastic and even better than the first, which I enjoyed for the most part. So
me too. I came back for season 2, obviously. So
I'm excited to jump in, and I hope it'll be interesting to see how far they're able to take it and where it goes. So yeah, I'm definitely in for that. It's a great show.
I should have known that it was going to be okay. Ronald Moore is not an idiot, he does pretty good shows. Even every show has some trouble in the first season when they're trying to figure out their groove. So
and their world building and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got to give them a chance. Yeah. So, and it's on Apple TV Plus. So it's not as getting as big an audience, I guess, as it could be. But I'm watching it, and of course, I'm hoping for season 2 of Ted Lasso pretty soon.
Still haven't watched that, but I will.
Dude, you gotta watch Ted.
I know. Okay.
Come on. So, all right, so find the Flickcast on the Stitcher and on Apple Podcasts and every place you find podcasts. Obviously, you've already found this show since you're listening to it, so I don't have
to tell your friends.
Tell you that. Tell a friend, yeah. And rate and review the show on Apple, which is the best one for that kind of thing, if you'd be so kind. They're still the dominant hosting thing, so if we get a review on that, it makes more of a difference than any other place. But if you want to rate us on Spotify or whatever, that's great too. Thanks.
Yes.
And you can find Joe and I on the socials at Chris Yu, and he is What Joe Writes. And of course, the Flickcast is on its own website and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. And we're putting up more content.
Yes.
So check that out. Anything else? I feel like that's it.
I think that covers it. Well done.
All right, great. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.